Welcome to the Honest Designers Show, your transparent look into life as a modern designer. My name's Tom Ross and I'm the founder at designcuts.com, and this week I'm joined by my fellow Brit and expert hand letterer Ian Barnard, American retro design expert Dustin Lee, and the ever-talented South African illustrator Lisa Glantz. In this week's episode, we chat some more about how to start a freelance design business. We look at how to make that initial rocky road into freelancing freedom a little bit more steady. If you're looking to build a solid foundation for your creative business and freelancing efforts, then today's episode is for you. Let's get into the show. So this week, we're going to be revisiting one of our favorite topics, and I think one of the most popular episodes ever, where we looked at what it really takes from day one to start a creative business. And I think previously we looked pretty heavily at freelancing, so obviously a lot of client work stuff. And today we're going to revisit that, but also broaden the net. We're going to be looking at selling physical products that you've designed, digital products, all kinds of stuff. Basically, if you're creative, we're going to look at how you can make money from day one. So I'm looking forward to this one. Obviously here with my lovely co-hosts, as per usual.
Hello,
how are you guys doing?
Doing good. We're all good.
Loving the optimism. So yeah, I almost don't know where to start with this. I think possibly if we look back at freelancing and then we can get into some of the other stuff. I think freelancing in particular takes a lot of courage. That's something I've been thinking about lately. It's all well and good. We can advocate all these wonderful tips and techniques of what you should be doing, but I think often making that shift is just scary for people. And I wanted to look at, do you guys remember that moment where you're like, oh, gulp, I'm going to take the plunge?
It was a dark time, I remember.
Yeah, I was petrified.
Go on, what did it look like?
Well, I just remember standing because I had taken the next step. I'd sort of started freelancing off and on, still working half day for somebody else. But then the next step was to actually really go out on my own and hire my own office space. For some reason, it was kind of like a thing to do. You just don't work at home. It kind of seems unprofessional. I mean, these days it's totally accepted, but but back then, for some reason, it just was like not really looked, upon so well. I just remember standing in front of this building that I wanted to, hire an office space, and standing with Cliff, my partner, and just discussing, how am I going to afford this? This is so scary. Can I really do this? I mean, we literally, I felt like I was going to have a nervous breakdown on the spot because it's frightening stuff. It's like, signing a lease to a thing that means you really do have to get business and all
that
kind
is
of
proper
stuff.
Business as well. I had no idea you did that with the office space.
Oh yeah,
because we talked about before, always like, just get started, all it takes is a laptop and a dream. But this is almost like this is like traditional business, like almost, potentially the need to get a loan, like you're getting an actual office space.
Exactly. I was
some cash up front.
petrified. I was absolutely petrified, but I also saw it, the other side of it, that I saw it as a promise to myself, and kind of like a dedication, like I'm going to make this work, and I think if you believe in yourself, then you're kind of halfway there. I know this sounds so cheesy and all, but I do think so, because I took myself seriously, and I thought, I'm going to make this work. This is a proper business. I'm going to hire a place. People can come to my office, and it's going to be a nice spot. It was like in a real swanky kind of artsy-fartsy building. So
that sounds awesome.
Yeah, it was. It was. It was actually an old brewery building. Yeah, so it was actually really cool. And yeah, I think I was excited. It was a mixed feeling. I was really...
Was it just you in this office?
Yeah,
just me. You didn't hire a secretary just to complete the facade of
the trauma.
No.
No, it was just me.
Okay. Do you feel like putting a bit of skin in the game actually helped to keep you motivated?
Yes.
Put some skin in the game, did you say?
Yeah, you never heard that?
No.
All right, yeah, a little skin in the game.
Yeah.
I feel like some skin in the game is already just like quitting everything and freelancing. Like that's a decent amount of skin in the game right there. Like so to me, it seems just insane to be like, let's also rent out an office building with a lease.
See, I would have done that like about a year, 2 years down the road, down the lane, because I'd need that sort of like, okay, this is working. Because I'd be sort of like, how is this going to work? I need to get this amount of money in to pay for the lease, and then I've got to money on top of that to then get my wage in. And obviously, you need to, when you're working for yourself, you've got to get in. Say you're getting in, I know, you want to get in £1,000-2,000 per month. Mm. You then have to think on top of that you have to take off tax. So you think, okay, for a beginner earner, in the UK, it's like 20%. So I'm going to have to, on top of that, earn another, was that 400 quid? So,
yeah.
Money is such an illusion. Like, you forget about taxes. Like, it took me like 2 years of running a business to realize taxes are a really significant cost.
Yeah, they are.
And it's always, and you have to, I don't know if you covered this, right? But what I found is that any money that I got in, when I got paid, so I got 500 quid paid for a job, I would automatically put that 20% away to another account.
Oh, you must.
So otherwise, you're going to get to the end, you're like, not going to be able to afford it, or you have to get a loan.
You guys are so responsible. You're like, you must. You must. I'm like, no, you must not. I didn't. You guys must have been doing better than me. I didn't. 20% away would have been like negative. I would have had to like give money. I would have had to like borrow money off my credit card to give 20%.
Except it still belongs to the tax man. I mean, you still got to pay the guy.
Otherwise, I would have got,
a fine.
Oh, you mean with tax? I thought you meant like a little savings account. Yeah. I guess
no. For tax.
I've been late a lot in paying my taxes, and they tend to be cool as long as you pay them. They get really angry when you don't pay them.
Yeah.
They're always cool if you pay them.
That's a pro tip there from Dustin. Fiscal responsibility.
I put it in a high interest account when you actually got interest in the UK.
The golden days.
And so what it was, over that year, it would earn money, very minimal, but it would earn money just sitting there.
I still do that to this day.
So I put money aside, every
you put it in
month.
a CD, or where are you putting it that you're getting interest?
Where am I putting it? I've got two accounts.
Both of you, like the yields we're getting here are like what, like
2%. What you need to do is move to a third world country where everything's a stuff up, and then the interest rate is so high that anything you save, actually you get a good return. I mean, we get like 8%.
How much?
8% guaranteed?
Yeah,
we get like 0.
Can I just PayPal money to you and then like have you like set up an account for me?
Can we have an honest designer's account?
I love that. Yes,
that's incredible. I mean, without going off on a finance tangent too much, you realize here to get that, you need to have a kind of medium aggressiveness investment manager handling a full stock portfolio for you. You don't get that. In the bank. We get like 0.75%.
Medium aggressive mutual fund here. 8%.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that's why South Africa is still standing, because there's foreign investment, because the returns are so good.
I'm not sure. Well, you're about to get 3 foreign investors contacting you after this podcast.
I'm going to have you open up an account for me. Okay, we're getting off subject here.
Be your offshore account like they do in the...
you've made it when you have an offshore account. So fine.
There's going to be a movie about this in 20 years' time. Okay, so going back to
she's like Mrs.
creative businesses.
Okay,
going back to creative businesses, I'm going to have to round up the troops here.
Okay.
So you got this building. You got your skin in your game. You're setting aside your 20%.
But I have
what next? Like still scary, right?
It's still very scary, but being the person I am, thanks to my mum, I was very systematic in working out what kind of jobs would I need to pull in. Because, you get an idea how much is a brochure design, how much is a newsletter, how much is a whatever. So you kind of work out how many jobs would I need to get in every month to pay the rent. Because obviously you pay your people you owe first, and then you pay yourself last, unfortunately. And so I kind of worked that out. So if I got so many jobs, I knew I'd cover rent. And then the next was, how much do I need to actually live, and so on and so on. So you need to, I know we've discussed this before, but that is so super crucial, because you can't go into this blind. You have to really know what you need to actually make it work. So yeah, so by day, say the 10th of the month, if I was covering rent, I'd be at least like, okay, thank goodness. Okay, so all I need now is to eat, you know?
Well, I think the tricky part about it is I was fresh off the 4-hour work week when I started being a graphic designer. In fact, that's part of the reason, long story, I got into it is because
which for everyone listening, that's a very popular book by Tim Ferriss.
Yeah, exactly. So I was fresh off this book about, working for yourself and making money. And I went back to school, to community college, because I was already in debt from regular college. So I went on the affordable route and studied graphic design. And then I was like too impatient and I didn't want to go work for somebody. So I just thought, well, I'll just start freelancing. I'll just make it work somehow. I'll be the person that does it. So I started doing that. And I knew, like, I calculated, here's how much I have to make, but it really didn't matter because I had no idea how to get clients. I wasn't established. And so like I had like a whiteboard where I'd write the number of how much money I needed to make, but it just sat there. I have it still. I've never wiped it off because I use it as a reminder of where I started
that's
and where I've gotten
I
to.
love that.
That's my wife found it and she showed it to me and I was like, the goal was like $1,800 a month. And I look back, I'm like, wow, it did work out. Back then I didn't know it, but it's like I knew that number, but I just didn't know how to get to it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I didn't have the slightest clue.
And I think that's a very good point because I've certainly been there myself when I was younger, less experienced, more naive. And any numbers like that are completely arbitrary, right? So it's all well and good. I used to map out huge like business plans and projections and none of it means anything.
Because you could map out like, here's how much I'll need for my Lamborghini. Here's how much I'll need for this. Okay, so now that we have that, how many newsletters and websites do I need to make?
I would do this all the time. And if I was making a bit of money, I'd be like, okay, so if I just times the output by 4 and, factor in that obviously I'm never going to lose any clients and I'll add this side income. And I would sit for hours obsessing over these elaborate plans, which never, ever happened.
Cut
and it took years before I'm like, yeah, it's so dumb, right? And I'm like, eventually it's like, okay, so we're going to enter back into the land of reality. And, the world doesn't work like that, obviously.
It's more like reality hit me with a brick in the face.
Yeah, right? So for me, when I was starting all this kind of stuff, I was in a very different position from you, Lisa. By the sound of it, I was younger because I was a teenager, really, trying to do some of this stuff. And I was living with my parents. I certainly didn't go and invest in property or anything like that or an office. And I very much was the kid with a laptop trying to make this work in my spare time.
I think it's amazing.
Throughout university, it was the kid with the laptop who was just about scraping by, trying to pay his way through uni as much as possible, getting the very occasional, very generous handout of like £100 here or there from parents where I'm like, okay, I'm going to starve to death this week because I went to the cash point and it's like, you have no funds. When you try and get £10 out and it's like, you haven't got that much.
Yes.
Living off rice for a week, the whole student thing. But but it was very much trying to work. So around lectures and so on, it would be taking anything that would come my way. So doing a bit of client work here. I was technical editor on a smashing magazine book about Photoshop as well. So it'd be random jobs like that, which were kind of cool to put on the CV. But literally it'd be like anything creative or design based that came my way, little bit off my blog, little bit of ad revenue, and kind of putting it all together. And at the end of the day, it was like, okay, I can just about afford to eat. Most of the money's clearly going on alcohol, being a student. But it was very unprofessional. It was nothing like your setup, Lisa. It wasn't a business. It was just that initial thing of, oh, okay, I'm going to try making some money from this. And I'm going to have to try and live off of this.
But, I have to say that, when I hit that next level, if you can call it that, but I don't know what you want to call it.
The next episode with Lisa Clans.
I knew, and maybe that was the game changer, because getting the office space, you kind of forced to now bring in a certain amount. I knew I needed a stable, a long-standing client that was going to always use me. So I needed somebody that I had like that basically I had as my main client, and they were going to give me a lot of work every month. And that forced me to go and get one. And that's actually transformed my business, because once I got that client, I never ever had to advertise again. I mean, the work just came in.
It just snowballed from there.
That was a big aha moment for me too. It never occurred to me that it was wiser to look for the type of clients that regularly need things made, as opposed to people. I was excited about making logos and stuff, but if you make logos and stuff for people, they might just need it once in a lot of different industries, and you never need anything again. So finding someone that constantly needs output is where I finally got traction.
Have we got any examples of that for the listeners? I mean, one off the top of my head could be perhaps a restaurant where they need the menu updating, they need additional flyers, they need tweaks on their website.
But I still think a small fry. Sorry.
I work take
it up a notch.
I work for a fairly big blog, and they constantly needed preview images, but more than that, they were selling digital products. So we'd be making ebooks, or we'd be making websites with courses, or websites that were like lead magnets. So we were doing a lot of like different website things and book things, and it was constantly being done because they were constantly selling different products.
Am I allowed to name this site, Dustin?
Yeah, it's called Pay to Exist.
I thought you were talking about that one. I just wanted to check. Cool. Yeah,
it's been sold, but it's still pretty cool.
Well, I remember it having a very cool design. So if you had anything to do with that,
me and your friend Chase Reeves from Fizzle.
Yeah, I know, right? Love that guy's work.
Yeah, it's great.
I did actually. The reason I was able to go from 2 days a week freelance to 5 days a week was because one of my main clients was a local restaurant. And it was always, because the thing is about restaurants is obviously you've got the menu, but you've also got, Valentine's Day, you've got Christmas, you've got...
of course, yeah.
Summer events. You have
I forgot about
manner.
That.
So, you're they're regularly pushing out. It wasn't like the same price as a logo design, but it was having that regular income that you could know, okay, I'm probably going to, it was like every month for me, or every, 2 times a month. And so that was, and it was easy, and it was, normally you'd have a template, or you just have to choose a good image to do it. And the other, so was that one, that was one client. The other client was...
Ian, sorry, just hold that thought for a second. Would they always come to you, or do you think possibly it's a good tip if you have those types of clients, set a little reminder around annual events and pop them an email, be like, hey, I know Christmas is coming up or Halloween's coming up, like just checking if you need anything, and maybe that could help drum it up.
I didn't do any reminders. I've never done that to anyone.
They just came to you, basically.
Yeah, because I'm not that organised. Luckily they were.
Okay, cool.
And the other one was I was working for a subscription based, a bit like Squarespace, I suppose, where they would buy their website, but it was like had no design to it, so it was like a naked website, and I'd come along and then I'd design. They'd give me the elements, and I'd produce like some visuals in Photoshop, and then I'd build it. I'd apply that design via style sheets to the site, and that was quite regular. That was like 1 or 2 a month as well. So having those two coming in, I still need stuff on top of that, but knowing that that was a regular gig meant that I could then, once I'd left, I could then just
changes everything.
Take on other jobs. I was sometimes having to say, actually, I can't do this job because I was only doing 2 days a week. And those 2 clients filled those time, and the rest of the time I was really busy doing a magazine. And so it meant I could say yes to other work, and I could just sort of, promote myself a bit more.
I think it's a good idea to think of businesses that basically need to communicate with their customer, because those are the people that need design. So it can be anything. For example, my biggest client was a medical aid. They have to communicate with all their medical aid people, so that was newsletters, it was membership cards, it was their website, it was like huge amount of stuff, all the time. That's so
that kind of brings up like another point that I've noticed in talking to people over the years is people that regularly need stuff, but like you said with that medical ed one, people that have plenty of money to pay you, it tends to be much easier to sell them because money is not so much a problem that they're hemming and hawing and, wiping sweat off their brows. They decide if they can afford to pay you.
Can I give you guys the worst type of client? And this is nothing against them, but if you're a designer, bands.
Who?
Because bands, like music bands.
Oh yeah, because they don't have the money. They don't have the money at all.
they never have money. Even like, even mid-sized to big bands tend not really to have budget for this kind of stuff. So when you're looking at amateur musicians and bands, and I have done work for a few of them, it is literally like getting blood out of a stone. They're like the anti-client, which is fair enough. I've been in band myself, and I certainly wouldn't have like invested our hard-earned money into websites and stuff.
Yeah.
But I think what we're circling around here, and I can totally relate. I had a ongoing client who was the biggest electric bass teacher online, which was a really fun project. And I think what we're all saying is you kind of get the upfront work quite often. So I redesigned his whole website, really helped his business in the process. And on the back of that, I would get ongoing work. So newsletters, banners, and bits and pieces. And I guess we could call that something like maintenance work for all of us, right? And it's something we haven't really touched on the show, but it is so helpful for when you are trying to help your cash flow and trying to get your creative business off the ground. It's incredibly helpful. And I know very big business owners who push for this kind of work, whatever their industry, because it is just so steady. So, they might have the big wins and, we landed a great client this quarter and the ups and downs that go there. But if in the background, they're building up the steady kind of like service work or contract work.
Right, retainers.
Exactly, retainer stuff. It really adds up. And I think a good way of looking at it is if you can use that work to pay your overheads.
Yep.
So every month, you're going to break even. You're like, okay, so I'll do these little tweaks. It might not be the most exciting work in the world, but it's fun. It's easy. It's reliable. If you can pay all your bills on that kind of work, and then any big projects you do on top of that, just help progress your business, and it is where the extra profit is. I think that's a very safe kind of balanced way to do it.
I mean, I had my bread and butter projects that weren't exactly exciting to do, but they paid the bills, so you can't knock those. I mean, you have to have them.
I think a lot of people ignore them though to their detriment.
I think it's crazy.
They're kind of left out of the discussion, right? Because they're not sexy, they're not exciting.
Yeah, you have to
crucial.
have them. Yeah. I think your perfect client is somebody who appreciates the value of what you're bringing to their business, is willing to pay for it. Okay. And is happy that you take it over because it's not their core focus. So if you can find that person and then give them the best service on earth and really make their lives so easy that they don't even have to worry about that side of their business, you have a client for life. I mean, that's the way to go. That's
right. Yeah. Cause some businesses have so much, plenty of money coming in. They're playing on a large scale in whatever area they're in. And so to them, having someone take care of the design part is just a no-brainer. It's just something they expect that they're going to pay this much money, and you're not reselling them constantly. They're just knowing they're going to be giving that money out, and it's so much easier. I remember getting on these meetings with people for one-off projects and having discussions and going back and forth in emails, and they end up being more difficult because they also really want to make sure it's perfect and exactly how they want because they know the money is limited. Whereas when someone has regular money coming in, they tend to be more relaxed. They tend to trust you more, let you try more things.
Yep.
Yeah.
So funny. It took forever for me to figure that out.
It seems quite obvious talking about it now, but it's definitely a trial and error thing. And I think when the work is quite ongoing, to them, it almost feels like a bill. It's like paying their electric bill.
Oh, it is.
They have a website. It's like a hosting bill.
Oh, absolutely.
And so that is kind of more accepted by a lot of businesses as opposed to the huge initial outlay. That kind of naturally just ticks along.
Something on this whole subject while we're still on retainers that I had a friend do, and he absolutely killed it doing this, was he would do retainer and he would just tell them all the different things he was going to take care of for the entire year. So he'd be like, you sign with me for a year and this is how much you pay every month. And he had anticipated all the things that this certain type of industries. He had like 3 or 4 different industries he'd work in.
Mm-hmm.
So they just knew. So automatically that was off their plate. Like they didn't even have to remind him. He was like, this will come out at this point. This will be done at this point. These security backups will be done at this point. And so they would just pay it month after month. He didn't have to have conversations. They just knew these things are done. Yeah. And he did very well off that.
And those kind of clients, they dream of people like that. You know, they're willing to pay them. So you just need to find them.
To put a caveat on this, I guess you want to be pretty explicit with what that covers. So if you've got a flat fee that's the same every month, that might be, okay, this is going to be scheduled plugin updates for your website or maintenance here or whatever. They shouldn't then think, okay, well, I pay you $200 a month and therefore I'm going to lump a bunch of design jobs on your plate.
You need to be clever with your contract.
Yeah, exactly. You need to be clear that those would be charged additionally as additional projects.
Yeah. Right.
I've never been put on a retainer, so I've been asked to do one, and I was like, oh, I don't know. I didn't want to get it wrong. That was my problem. Because like then I'm stuck in this like monthly cycle where it's actually costing me money because I've quoted it wrong, or I've done the wrong wording. Or...
Yeah. Oh, it's horrible. Yeah.
I think what's cool, if you can build these up, they can actually become enough to live on, just the retainers. And then you can treat it like any kind of membership business or anything like that, where you actually start to dig into the stats of how many people are dropping out and stuff like that. So if your income's not growing over time, you can think, okay, well, I'm attracting 2 people a month, but I'm also losing 2 people a month. And then you can start getting strategic with why is that, and talking to those clients and seeing, is there a common problem that I can solve moving forward? You know, if they keep leaving because they're not getting enough value for X, Y, and Z reasons, then you can address that up front.
Yeah.
And the dream is you obviously retain those people and continue to add new ones up until the point where you're at maximum capacity. And then when you hit that, if you're still getting interest, then you can start raising your prices.
Yeah. I never did retainers either. I tried it once. It didn't work.
Why didn't it work? Because I think this is kind of, I have done them and I think they work for a lot of people, but I'm aware this conversation is slightly dusting in my mindset of like, oh, it's great in theory. You can plot out how much money you can make, but it's perhaps not that easy.
Fortunately, I was already, I'd say about 7 years into the thick of being a freelancer. So I knew what it took to create something and the hours and how much I was willing to spend and how much I was going to charge. And I soon realized that their lack of brief and direction, because that's also key, started messing me around. So I was doing a lot of extra work because of that. So even though, you know, the job is still a brochure or whatever, their way of dealing with me was so unprofessional and incomplete and like drawing, you know, like pulling teeth and all this kind of stuff. It actually ended up being more of a pain. And I spent more money more time than they were paying me, than I would have actually like spent on a normal job. So yeah, I could have spent that time more wisely doing something else more lucrative. So that's basically why I stopped doing that. But it can work. It just means...
it sounds like maybe you got unlucky with that client.
Maybe.
Well.
I think you have to...
Because I was doing it as a retainer when I worked for instance, Paid to Exist, and then I had a couple smaller ones that were a lot smaller, where it was just a few, but we would do it by time. So they just had a certain amount of time every month. And if it wasn't used up, then I'd still get that amount of money. And if it was, I would, you know.
Okay, yeah. So I guess it depends on your contract, but for me it was per job. So they would say, we're willing to pay you X for this job. You know.
Dustin, is that where you worked deliberately really slowly? That old chestnut?
Yes.
Classic.
So this logo's taken me
7
months
years. Yeah.
Well, obviously you got that motivation because you want them to keep, you want to keep the retainer. You want people to keep paying you. So
yeah.
I mean, I won't lie. I did work. I tended to work more hours sometimes than what I said. I didn't tell them that.
Yeah.
But I did. I just did it to make sure that I was finishing things properly.
Mm-hmm.
It's a good thing.
But a lot of times I didn't have to work as much. So
yeah. So I'm going to make an executive decision on this episode. I think we should keep going with the freelancing stuff. I know at the beginning I mentioned getting into physical creative products and digital, but I'd actually love to do a whole episode on that stuff. And I feel like there's more here for freelance and client work. So to keep going, you know, we've talked quite a lot about retainers there. some of the courage it takes and the mindset behind making that jump. Can you guys perhaps think of any turning points in doing it? So Lisa, I'd say probably one for you was making the jump and getting the offers. For all of us, it was finding that first big, real good fit client. That would be quite a crucial, step in our freelance careers. Is there anything else that pops into your head as, man, that was really instrumental?
For me, it was doing. Sorry, let me throw this in real quick. For me, it was just getting something credible. Once I had a few really credible things to put on, that helped a lot. Sorry, Ian.
No, I was just going to say, actually, a lot of stuff I've done has come out of relationships.
Start charging your girlfriend kind of thing?
Yeah, a couple of dollars every Facebook friend. Easy grand there. No, just because because I got a lot. I still, when I was freelancing with just general graphic design, I used to get a lot of work from my old company because I kept the relationship up. I didn't burn any bridges because they knew who I was and knew what my skill set were. So me coming back into the office just to do a bit of freelance if someone was ill or to cover holiday or they were just got too much work on, they knew the process that worked in the studio there. And so I could just come in, do the work they were required to do, and then, go away rather than coming in and being fresh and like, okay, how does your, system work here and stuff like that. So that was really helpful as well because they could, that could come along every so often. And I think just, and actually the restaurant job came through a relationship with my old boss, and he said to them, we can't take on your work, but this guy can. He used to work for us and he's really good. So, that came out of recommendations through a relationship. So I think it's just the more people you can know within that industry and within who might need you to then think, okay, yeah, cool. Because I mentioned about how if you pop up on, like on Instagram, if you pop up regularly, then people comes to the forefront of your mind. If you've got some good relationships with people that need your services, then if you know them well or someone that knows them, then you will pop up as because I often get with like, do you know a good builder? And they go, oh, I know my mate Bob. He's really good.
I know Ian's Bob.
Yeah, Ian, I'm totally with you on this. Certainly for me, it was referrals. That was a huge, and you can feel it. I think for everyone out there who's trying to break into freelancing, you can feel these moments where it gets a little bit easier because it is an uphill struggle. And occasionally something happens and you go, oh, that kind of just, I just coasted along for that little bit. And that's not very common because I think most of it is incredibly hard. So do pay attention when those things happen where you think, oh, God, that really helped me. Yeah. I think it's important to tune into those and see how you can replicate them.
I also had a turning point that actually came from a negative experience. I started doing pitches for certain jobs, which I didn't in the past. So I started getting to a point where I wanted, a particular type of work. So I was willing to do a pitch, and pitches are free. I don't know if it works the same for you guys and where you are. So they'd give you a brief, and you'd spend absolutely like a week or more doing, putting together this pitch, and you got no guarantee that you actually get the work. And I did it twice, and the second one was enormous. It was absolutely massive. But if I got the job, it would mean, a really lucrative job, and it also foot in the door, etc., etc. And I'd done all this work, and I went to, present it. They asked me, can they keep it? Because they want to show it the client. Then I got told, the next day, sorry, but they're not going with me. And then they went ahead and actually used my designs. Okay.
Oh, okay.
And I was a newbie, and when I say newbie, I mean newbie to this process. But I was still insecure as a designer, and my own business, etc. And that was a turning point for me because I realized, hang on a minute, I am actually good enough to do this work. They just weren't willing to pay me. And I need to charge more, and I need to stop doing this stuff for free and actually, take, think better of myself and my abilities and my capabilities. And from that moment, my whole mindset changed, how I was going to charge for jobs, how I was going to approach jobs, and stop feeling so guilty. Maybe I'm too expensive. Maybe I won't get the work. I just thought to myself, no, I'm just going to do it. And I know I'm good enough because they stole my work, because it was obviously good enough to steal. I changed everything. It changed how I started quoting and how I started doing work. So, yeah.
So that confidence really was a bit of an upward swing for you.
Yeah. So good things can come from bad things. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a pretty terrible thing. Hopefully they got sued or something.
Hopefully, but who knows?
No, I meant by you.
No, gosh, I was like a little bug compared to them. I mean, to sue them would have been a story. Yeah.
Oh, that's terrible.
Yeah.
Proper horror story.
So be careful when you pitch. Make sure they don't steal your work.
Yeah. I think, again, this comes back to a common theme on the show, which is you're never going to be able to just bypass all this stuff.
No.
So you're always going to have the terror and the crappy experiences and the positives. And that's kind of the point. It's like none of us would be the creatives that we are today, or where we are today, without having gone through that journey.
Exactly.
So I think it's so worthwhile.
It is. And if you bypass that stuff, you miss out on really important experiences that shape you, and also give you confidence or teach you how to be in a particular way or in particular situations. So it's important, I think. Yeah.
And I think it makes a really critical mind shift happen in your brain that applies to design or non-design things you do in the future, is that when you're a freelancer, you've just reversed it from I work for someone and I get paid for no matter what happens, to and I get paid on the certain date, to I have to perform, I have to bring people in, and I have to convince them to buy, and then I get paid after I've done all of that stuff, which is like a complete reversal in the way that we're used to operating. So that's why it's such a struggle, I think, is because we're reversing. But once you learn it, it applies to so many different things, and I think it's empowering once you realize it does work.
Mm-hmm.
Well said.
Okay, so on a final thought then today, I want to talk quickly about optimism, linking into that, because I think it can be so easy to get bogged down with a lot of what we're talking about, and sometimes you need this almost crazy, unbridled, unrelenting optimism, I think, to get through it, where it's not, things are so different and they're so hard. It's like, you know what? Like, I'm going to turn the world on its head and I'm going to do it anyway, and everything's going to work out fine. And what do you think? You think you need a little injection of that?
Absolutely. I think if you don't, you probably won't make it. I know that sounds dramatic, but you have. I think you have to fake it till you make it somehow. I don't know.
Yeah, still doing that.
Me too. Don't worry.
I think I felt like I would be miserable if I just felt like the type of person that needed to own something for myself. And it wasn't so much that I was super optimistic as much as it hurt too much to think I would spend my whole life working for somebody else doing something I didn't want to. So I just kept grinding along torturously, to be honest.
I remember seeing, because I used to pop around to see my friend's dad, who's a graphic designer, and he had his studio in the back of his garden. And if he wasn't in, he was always playing golf. And I was just like, he always had loads of work. He had a cool office where he worked, and he could go back in the house and make coffee. It's all right. And I was like, that's so good. I hope one day I could be like that. And I think it's having that. I didn't think I would have that, but I was just like, it'd be cool if one day it could be like that. And and it's weird when you do. I'm sort of halfway there, building the studio at the moment. So, but
I love that though, that you literally went after that dream. You put your dreams of being a stuntman electrician to one side, and you went after it.
Oh, classic! Yeah. So,
my goodness.
And I think it was just because it was before I, to go free. Because I remember him saying that once you go freelance, you can never go back.
Oh,
And
yeah.
I was employed at the time, and I was like, you just don't understand it until you go freelance and you're working for yourself. You just think, man, it was just, you realise how hard it was actually. Even though you're dependent on your own self and you don't get a wage and it fluctuates up and down every month. It's such a great way to be. So
Yeah,
it's true.
Yeah.
Once you've done it, you really can't go back.
no.
You ruin yourself for employers.
yeah,
Yeah, you make yourself unemployable.
That's true.
Cool. Well, yeah, I think that is a good point to wrap it, to be honest. And for everyone listening, obviously we've all taken our different paths, but I do love that analogy of Ian basically seeing the example of what is possible and being like, yeah, why not? And then actually making it happen. And so wherever you're at right now, I think there's absolutely no harm looking towards, you know what, that would be a pretty cool life. It can be as simple as that, and then just giving it a crack.
Yep.
don't focus on the money.
Cool.
No. This is a focus on surviving.
Yes. Yeah. The thing is, the money. I was saying fluctuates. Sorry to, but and it, yeah, because like the thing is, it goes up and down every month. Just focus on the sort of the type of work you want to get in, and the type of designer you want to be, really.
Yeah.
Because if you worry about the money too much, it just that becomes the focus, and that the enjoyment comes out of it, and it's the money that's the focus rather than what you're doing. Like,
Exactly.
Yeah, wise words. Thanks so much for listening to this week's episode. We hope that it gave you some inspiration for starting your creative freelancing business. Think of the four of us as your personal guinea pigs, where we can make a real lot of mistakes over the years so you don't have to. As always, you can find full show notes over at honestdesigners.com or find us over on iTunes by searching for The Honest Designers Show. If today's episode did help you, then it would mean the absolute world to us if you took just a moment to leave a quick review on iTunes, as this is one of the best ways for other designers to discover the show. Thanks so much again for tuning in, and we will see you next week right here on The Honest Designers Show.